Page 48. The sequence of events at a dopamine synapse is given below. And this story here at the top is just what you'd expect. Dopamine molecules bind to receptor, so the neurotransmitter binds to receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. That sounds reasonable. The dopamine leaves the receptor, moves back to the presynaptic neuron. So dopamine goes across the synapse, binds to the receptors, then some of it goes back in and some of it is broken down or goes back into the vesicles. So that's the normal story that you would expect in a synapse. Then we have three drugs, all of which I can't pronounce the name of. Phenothiazine, phenelzine, amphetamine, and they do various things at the synapse. And our job is to use our existing knowledge to see what drug does what. Use the information and figure in table 4.2. Which one has a shape that differs in bold from the dopamine? Well, anything that fits into a dopamine receptor will have a similar shape to dopamine. So it can't be the first one or the third one, because it says both of those bind to the dopamine receptors. So it's got to be the spare one. It's got to be phenelzine, because the others both bind to dopamine receptors. The other two bind to dopamine receptors. Schizophrenia is a condition where there is higher than usual level of dopamine in certain areas of the brain. Okay. Suggest why phenothiazine is used to treat schizophrenia. Well, the problem is higher than usual dopamine, so we're looking for something that's going to stop dopamine acting, and it says this one here binds to and blocks dopamine, so it gets in the way of the dopamine. It blocks the receptors so dopamine cannot bind to them. So we're just really going to say this, so it binds to dopamine receptors and blocks them, and so dopamine cannot now bind. So dopamine can not now bind to receptors, so you get less of the effect of dopamine on the postsynaptic neuron, so less effect from dopamine in the postsynaptic neuron. So a question that seems very complicated, but actually the answers are fairly simple.